A seasoned air hostess in her mid-20s, Sara had always found comfort in the skies. She knew the routine of flights by heart, the check-ins, the boarding process, the smiles exchanged with passengers. But there was something about tonight's flight that felt off. The quiet murmur of passengers, the soft shuffle of footsteps on the terminal floor, all felt too subdued. Through her interactions with passengers and co-workers, we explore her calm, professional demeanor and her backstory, why she became an air hostess, escaping a broken family, the need for independence, and her previous experiences that made her good at managing in crisis situations. The flight begins, and Sara goes through her usual routine, interacting with passengers. This section also introduces key figures who will become important later in the story. A mother with her young child, passengers in distress, an elderly man traveling alone, a honeymoon couple, and a young man sitting alone, typing furiously on his laptop. Through Sara's observations, we learn bits about their lives, personalities, and fears. Sara is drawn to one particular passenger in seat 14B, a tall, nondescript man whose presence unnerves her. His eyes are unsettling, sharp, and calculating. She tries to brush it off as nerves, but can't shake the feeling. The flight reaches cruising altitude, and Sara begins her round of drink and snack service. She's busy, distracted, but every now and then, she catches glimpses of the man in 14B. He hasn't moved. His eyes are fixed on the aisle. His hands are clasped on his lap, unnaturally still. Tension builds in Sara's chest, but she rationalizes it, reminding herself that some passengers are just quiet. The unease grows as Sara notices subtle changes in the behavior of the crew. One flight attendant looks tense. Another keeps looking at the door to the cockpit. The soft clicking of a seatbelt sign as it flashes on briefly, then off again, causes Sara to feel more discomfort. The sounds in the cabin, the whispers between passengers, the way some eyes dart nervously, everything seems a little off. Just as Sara is about to dismiss her fears, the moment of terror strikes. The man in 14B rises, too quickly, too purposefully. The entire cabin goes silent. He pulls a gun and the passengers freeze. For a split second, Sara's training kicks in. But then the first shot rings out, a loud bang shattering the silence. The gunman fires into the ceiling and chaos erupts. The other hijackers emerge, masked and armed, moving quickly and efficiently, taking control of the plane with deadly precision. Panic fills the cabin as the hijackers bark orders. A mother clutches her child tightly. The elderly man clutches his chest, gasping for air. The honeymoon couple clings to each other, their faces pale. Sara remains calm, instructing the passengers to stay low, remain silent, and follow the hijackers' commands. Sara and the other flight attendants are pushed to the back of the plane and ordered to sit down. The hijackers don't allow anyone to move, not even for water or the bathroom. The cabin is a mix of fear and confusion. Sara listens carefully to the hijackers' demands, trying to make sense of their motivations. They seem prepared, rehearsed, as if they've done this before. One hijacker is louder, more aggressive, while the other is quieter, speaking in a calm yet menacing tone. The hijackers force the captain to speak over the intercom, telling everyone to remain calm. The captain's voice cracks slightly, betraying the anxiety behind his calm words. Sara can sense that this is no ordinary hijacking. They don't just want money, they want something else. Her mind races, but her training holds her in place. She can't afford to panic. One of the hijackers reveals that they have already sent out a demand for a ransom. The demand is vague, shrouded in political motives. There's talk of making a statement to the world, of delivering justice. The strange, almost robotic calm in the hijackers' voices only heightens the sense of dread. As the hours drag on, Sara begins to observe the tensions between the hijackers. They argue among themselves over the next steps. One is more aggressive, wanting to threaten the passengers more openly, while another seems more reserved, cautious. The interplay between the hijackers adds an unsettling unpredictability to the situation. Sara knows that the slightest misstep could lead to violence. Sara moves among the passengers, offering reassurances even though her own heart is racing. She knows the hijackers are growing impatient. The demands aren't being met. The plane has already deviated off course. But the longer it stays in the air, the more volatile the situation becomes. Every bump in the flight feels like an impending crash. One of the hijackers begins pacing the cabin, gun raised, inspecting passengers as if searching for something. The air is thick with fear. Sara notices the man in seat 14B again. He's still calm, his face unreadable. But his eyes, Sara can't shake the feeling that he's watching her, waiting for something. It's as though the hijacking was all planned around her. She begins to question everything. Was she being watched from the very beginning? Throughout the tension, Sara's mind spirals. Her training tells her to stay composed. But the fear of losing control, of the situation spiraling into something unspeakable, grips her. She keeps her outward calm, but her mind races through possibilities, escape plans, safety protocols, the location of exits. Every scenario plays out in her head, and yet none of them seem real. Hours pass, and the plane begins its descent. The hijackers grow increasingly aggressive. The passengers are shaken, crying, whispering prayers, and Sara can hear their muffled sobs even above the noise of the engines. Her hands tremble as she tries to reassure them, but the words feel hollow. Then the plane jolts, a violent lurch. For a moment, Sara fears it's the end. As the plane descends into a remote airstrip, the hijackers deliver their final demand: a massive ransom, a plane to escape, and a guarantee of their safety. Sara, watching from the rear, realizes with a sinking feeling that this wasn't just about money. There is something much more sinister behind their words. They want power, leverage, and they are willing to sacrifice everything to get it. The tension reaches its breaking point when the hijackers begin to lose their patience. One of them fires another warning shot, and the cabin goes silent. The gunfire echoes in the confined space of the plane, causing everyone to flinch. Sara watches the young man she had noticed earlier, a techie, a passenger who seemed absorbed in his laptop, suddenly spring into action, trying to overpower one of the hijackers. It ends in disaster, and a terrifying silence falls. The techie is pushed to the ground, his life hanging by a thread. The wheels hit the ground with a sickening screech, and the plane comes to a stop at a dimly lit, isolated airstrip. No rescue teams, no security, just the quiet hum of the engines dying down. The hijackers order everyone to deplane, and Sara is forced to move with them, knowing this is only the beginning of a new nightmare. The final leg of the story reveals that the hijackers had a more elaborate plan, one involving international politics, revenge, and personal vendettas. The truth about their motives comes out in bits and pieces. Sara is forced to confront the harsh reality of their situation. There is no easy escape, no simple resolution. In the final pages, Sara makes a desperate decision to act, to make the ultimate sacrifice to ensure the safety of the passengers. In a moment of brilliance, she manages to trick the hijackers, using her knowledge of the plane and her quick thinking to create an opportunity for the passengers to escape. Just as they believe they are free, another twist unfolds. The hijackers' plans are not yet complete, and the danger is far from over. Sara's resolve is tested in the final confrontation, an all-out struggle for control, for survival, as the fate of everyone aboard the plane hangs in the balance. Finally, after a harrowing struggle, the passengers are rescued. Sara, exhausted but alive, is left to reflect on everything she's been through. The hijackers are arrested, but the emotional scars remain. The trauma of the ordeal will stay with Sara and the passengers forever. Sara stands at the edge of the runway, watching as the plane she'd once called home is towed away. The sky above is dark, but the stars begin to emerge, a reminder that even after the darkest hours, there is always light. Her journey isn't over. There's healing to be done, but for now, she allows herself a moment of peace, knowing she did everything she could to survive.